Hey, David T.S. Wood here, and welcome to My Extra Mile. Conversations today are mind-blowing. I mean that because this is all about the mind. You know, our thoughts create our feelings, our actions, our results. And this multi-millionaire is making almost $2 million a year, and her best friend Emma are going to share with you exactly their strategies of how they have reprogrammed and continue to reprogram their mind for ultimate success. So enjoy the show, and you know what to do. Boop, 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 boop. And also, I want to call out our comment winner, Abby Lentash. She said, thanks for sharing these conversations, David. They are so empowering, and I'm loving the amazing guests that you have that are also sharing so much gold. Thank you. Thank you, Abby. Enjoy the show, everyone, and we'll see you on the other side. Kylie, you know, you said something, you know, people see the glory, but rarely know the story. And we were sort of just noodling on what would be a great subject to dive into for a really short show. And this idea about building the mind, you know, and how the mind, first of all, why is it important? Let's go to you, Kylie. Why is it important about, you know, controlling and building our mind and actually understanding that we can completely rewire it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, as you said, people see the glory, but they don't see the story. And going back on my journey, 8 years ago, I'm still the same person, but I have a stronger mindset. And it really is about building your mindset. Every single day, you need to be working on your mindset. And I think, you know, at the beginning of my journey, I was very shy, very, you know, an introvert by the biggest means. But it really is creating a strong mindset. And I mean, we're going to go deeper and deeper into this, but for me, it's knowing your worth, it's building your belief, and yeah, just really knowing your direction, I guess. So
yeah. Well, you know, I always say those three elements of success, right? Which is right mind, you know, right vehicle, right time. And you both have chosen the right vehicle, which for me is, you know, I'm a professional network marketer, so I love the vehicle of network marketing. And the right timing, of course, health and wellness has never been a greater time, because even young people, old people, we're all kind of into it. But the right mind, the right you is really where this all lies. And Emma, you know, talk a little bit, because you've been like 4 years now where you've been really working on your mind, which is relatively new. You're kind of like, you know, you're actually just, you were joking on our last show about, you know, just finishing your apprenticeship and just like you're just starting out. What has been the biggest kind of lessons? You got, you know, young children. What has been the biggest lessons you've learned around the mind alone that you think someone listening could benefit from?
Oh my gosh, I was watching this thing the other day, and they did a study, and you had to shut your eyes and pretend you were doing something, and they showed your brain scan of actually doing it, and then they showed your brain scan of thinking you're doing it, and it was the same. So I was like, that blew my mind even more. So if you come to my home, I've literally there's a vision board up here, in my showers, on my fridge, in our car. It's my screensaver with my girls, and the affirmations we say every day. I had to rewire every little bit in my brain. Like I had to rewire everything. And last month was a huge month, and I looked at a few things, and I actually hit on my vision board that was on there for like 2 years. I literally hit it, but I'm like, the biggest thing that Kylie has taught me, and same with you, David, is just immersion. And I'm like, my car's a library, my home is a library. My girls don't know the hottest 100. They've got a bit of TikTok going on, but I'm telling you, they're listening to training as well. And her kindergarten teacher said that Peach picked up 5 cents off the ground and went, "Oh, I'm a magnet to money," kissed it, walked off. And her teacher goes, "What are you teaching these girls?" And I'm like, "It's money mindset, babe." So it's from that young mind, and I had to rewire everything. And honestly, Kylie, I remember, pulled out a belief questionnaire with me and sat with me, and anything that was not a 10, I had to work on. I had to work on that, and I went to work. And if it was a comp plan, I had to do comp plan training. If it was myself, I had to really go inward and go, what's going on in here? And if it was something like I needed motivation, it was like, okay, what do I need to, it's the biggest thing, honestly. It's belief. It's going to be the thing that makes you go 2 feet in or go 2 feet out, and you're comparing because you don't believe that you can actually do it. And the biggest thing is, don't know everything before you start. Please don't think that you need to know ingredients. You need to know exactly what that comp plan is. 2 years into it, I still didn't know the comp plan properly. All I knew is that I had to help people. That's it. Right. So I had to just work on myself. I'm not the person sitting here 5 years ago.
But Kylie, when you sort of hear this and we sort of talk about if we understand how the brain works, and Emma's point that the brain is kind of like, what we imagine is as real as what we're doing, and that most people are stuck because of the imagining. If we look at the word fear, most people say, it's the false evidence appearing real. But if we actually dive into what it is the anticipation of pain. So most people live in a very, very small comfort zone. What you've both discovered is that the personal growth, sort of the building the mindset, which is what we're really talking about, is outside of the comfort zone. Talk to me about, Kylie, talk to me about that journey outside your comfort zone and how incredibly hard it was, and how you've been able to navigate it now, where it's still hard, but what the juice is. That once you're out there, there's going to be a reward that far exceeds the fear, right?
100%. That's exactly it. Like, you've always taught us that, the juice is in the uncomfortable zone. And it's so true. It's like, I'm just going to relate back to a time where I was absolutely petrified, David. I had the opportunity to speak on stage with Eric Worre in front of 6,000 people. And I was so scared. I had to sit in that audience for 5 hours before I actually was going on stage. And I was petrified. I was feeling unworthy. I'm like, why? Like, even though I'm the #1 income earner within the company in Australia here, I was still feeling unworthy, David. It was just like, who am I to be sitting here? Who am I to be the #1 income earner? Who am I to, to be standing in front of these people? Like, anyway, getting back to the fear part, it was really pushing past that fear. And one thing with me was, before, this is one great thing with my journey, is before I had to know every single question someone was going to ask me. Like, if you'd asked me to be on this call for even 2 years ago, I would have said, okay, David, I want all the questions you're going to ask me. And I would sit there and I would write down every single answer, trying to make it, the right answer for people. And that's what threw me with Eric. He would not give me the questions. And so I was going on that stage blind. And
he's probably like me. He didn't know the questions.
Yeah, probably. Well, that's what I've learned. But I sat in my car for like 4 hours before that, like literally wanting to vomit. But the thing is, I still did it. And I think that's the thing. It's finding that courage. And I still got up there and I answered the questions, and it just came out of me. We have it within us. And I think that's the greatest knowledge, I guess, is that when you can believe that you have it within you anyway, it just comes out naturally. And so, that is, and from there, each time something comes up, it's not as a big a deal, if you know what I mean. And it's like, it's really, things are always going to come up in your life. Things are going to come up in your relationships. Things are going to come up in your business life, your family life, everything. But it's really just a matter of pushing through those things. And it's not burying it under the carpet. That's one thing I've learned. It's like feeling the emotion and really going through it, and really, like Em said with that vision board thing, for me, it's always been find someone who has what you want. And one of our top leaders told me this at my very first event, and it stuck with me for a whole 8 years, is find someone who has what you want, ask them what they did, do that, and continue until.
Yeah.
And, and that's stuck in my mind, and that's sort of what I've done. yeah, it's really taking the belief off other people and using it for yourself.
And modeling is so powerful, and it's so easy, right? And for someone listening right now that maybe doesn't have the strongest mind, and the strongest mind, we all have the strongest minds. It's just our minds, we don't understand that we get to program them. And most of us have been programmed by our environment, things we've heard, things we've seen, things that experiences, especially emotional experiences that happen to us. And so we end up sort of running through life with someone else's program. And often it's a program of a 4-year-old or a 7-year-old. Something happens when we're 7, and for the rest of our life, we end up giving meaning to the world. Now, what you're listening to is 2 very, very successful women here who are sharing, you know, how they can build and how you can build your mindset. But before I tell you any more, the reason I gazed out the window a moment ago is not 1, but 2 massive bald eagles flew. And I thought they were going to hit the window. They just came. And it was just like, and I was looking at you 2 powerful women, and then I see these 2 powerful eagles outside. Like, it was so cool. Anyway, that's just taking squirrel.
Yellow.
Yeah, but Emma, you talked about the vision board and the importance of that and these daily practices, because the big question is how can someone listen to us right now, leave this call, and begin the journey of developing their mind to be the most powerful thing to allow them, because then all they need is the vehicle and the right time. If they find the vehicle right time with the right mind, we can do anything. Talk about, you know, your early steps. What are some of the baby steps you took to be able to develop the mind that you have today that is so on purpose, you know, so clear? I listen to both your languages, right? There's very, 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 very tiny words occasionally that come out with a little tiny, you're not sure, but most of it's absolute certainty. How'd you get here?
Well, that's the biggest thing, David. It's one step at a time. Like, do not put on your vision board that you want to be a millionaire and you're just starting your journey. Literally put on, like, have crystal clear vision of where you're going. Like, if you want a full-time income, if you want your next rank, how many people you want to work with.
Now you're talking about network marketing. I'm just talking about the mind.
Oh, vision.
Okay. So if we just take network marketing out, just to stay with how do they build their mind if they're not a network marketer?
Oh, the mind. Okay,
Yeah.
So with my vision board, what's on mine is exactly, I'm just crystal clear of where I'm going. So I know where I'm going. So I want to travel more with my girls. I know what car I want to drive. I know exactly what my figure amount that I'm going to be earning in June, July 2020. I've got photos of Disneyland. I've got photos of a ring because I do want to get married again one day and I want to open up. So I'm calling that.
What a lucky guy.
Not for a while. I'm still in my apprenticeship. It's
okay,
from
good. Yeah.
another 2 years.
Are you in your apprenticeship for men too? Is that what you just said?
No. It's going to be a little while, but I am pulling that in. That's not off the board. So it's on the board, and it's literally knowing where you're going, even if it is business or personal. It's just knowing exactly and reading affirmations every day. Like, sometimes I even have an affirmation in my pocket. My alarm goes off. Ding, ding, ding. It's like, hey, it's your affirmation. There's an app called Think App, and it's actually me recording my affirmations. And then at nighttime, it says it back to me. I am happy and grateful. Like, just find an app, do your next step. Just start with a vision.
Actually, go through, because a lot of people, again, if they're just starting out, they give us some of your affirmations that you've done.
Okay, cool.
Let's recite some of them.
Would you like me to play it?
Yes, go on. Let's do it. This is what's it called again?
So it's called Think App.
Think App. So now with the beauty of you hearing your own voice, and there's a whole science around you hearing your own voice say it versus a stranger versus reading it, right? Because apparently it's firing the sense. Go on.
Oh, the first one, my fears are melting away.
Oh, wow. I feel so happy and grateful that my commission is $15,000 a week and I'm earning $780,000 a year. My mind is open to the idea that my business is growing quickly and easily. I forgive those who have harmed me in the past and peacefully detach from them.
Wow. And how many affirmations do you have?
80.
I love it. And they just play, and the app creates the music. And talk about how you decided, because this is Go on.
Yeah, so it's just like that.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were going to play one. But I was going to say,
No.
those of you listening on a podcast, you just held up the app for us, that's all. Talk to us about how you decided, because often as we're constructing our affirmations, we construct them around the things that are challenging us, right? So did you start with the money? Did you start with the mind? How did you start building them?
So I probably had 4. So I had to work on forgiveness and detaching on forgiveness with my past and my ex-husband and my best friend. So that was forgiveness and freeing and really letting go, because as soon as I let go of that story and didn't give that story meaning, life just got so juicy. So that was more about making every day a forgiving and loving, and always look at people through love. Like if someone's rude to me, they could have had a bad day, like they need a hug. So it's always that forgiveness, and it's so freeing. The next one is just gratitude, what I'm really grateful for, the life I'm living right now. I'm so happy and grateful. Just something so simple. I'm so happy and grateful for my daughter's health. I'm so happy and grateful for this home we live in. I'm so happy and grateful for my friends and my mentors. So that's gratitude. And then one was was business. It's business time. It was business. It was where I was going. It was the leaders I was calling in. The leaders I'm looking for are looking for me. And then the last one is obviously love. And it was just like opening my heart, because I feel like if I open my heart, it's opening my heart to more of my team and my business.
Awesome.
Because I really shut down, David. I was hurt and I really shut. It was like, so that was just the simple like an app. It's an app that just plays it back to me. And if you, in my shower, there's everything, all my goals, they're all up in my home. So, and I repeat it all like morning and night.
And the results speak for themselves. I mean, like, and if I come back to you, Kylie, right now, we talk about some of your daily rituals around building the mind and understanding. Again, if anyone wants to listen to our first show together, right, have a little listen to that one. You'll see that Kylie, is she's a 7-figure a year, almost 8, right? Almost $2 million a year income earner. And, starting out with what you described as Groundhog Day, but that was Groundhog Day not only in your life, it was in your mind. And that yet you've been able to really create a global business impacting, hundreds of thousands of people. Talk to me about, again, someone listening who's wanting to build their mindset. What's some of the key things that you would ask them to start with? We've got affirmations, but what's some of the rituals that you go through and that's really helped you get here?
Yeah, first of all, it's making the decision. The decision making is the most important. Like, you have to draw that line in the sand. You have to commit to something, for me, it doesn't matter what it is. For me at the moment, it's committing to my daily rituals, which is, as I said, getting up, exercising, listening to a couple of podcasts, taking care of myself. That's my daily rituals at the moment. Because I feel, David, I'm in another growth process at the moment. Like, I really do. And, just leveling up myself to another level. So it really is, it comes down to making that decision. When I started, I had no plan B. I had to change things. I couldn't go back. I couldn't keep living the life I was living. And so that's the type of decision I'm talking about. Like, that's what you need to have the strong mindset around, and don't get distracted. It's like, you make that decision, and that's why the vision boards are so good, because you make that decision, you put that vision in front of you, and it's like, okay, nothing's going to distract me. So build your mindset. For me, I mentioned it's listening to Tony Robbins' podcast at the moment, but it's also building my mindset. I listen to Abraham Hicks. It's having a variety of things to build your mind. Some might be on relationships, some might be on business, some might be on just building your self-esteem, and building that self-confidence again, because you go through the ebbs and flows of life of where, you'll be high as a kite, fully self-confident, and then something might take you down. And you're brought right back down. And so it's really about rebuilding yourself. And I think each time you rebuild yourself, you become stronger and stronger and stronger. And, things don't affect you as much. So a couple of the ones I listen to, Tony Robbins, Abraham Hicks, Teal Swan. And instead of television, I don't watch television. I watch YouTube channels, and it's all on, it's TED Talks, or it's, you know, it's always filling your mind. And I think that is the most beautiful and the most powerful thing that you can do for yourself and for others. Like, it really is, because whatever you're filling your cup with, it's obviously, it's going to come out, and energy is everything. So you are, you know, you attract who you are. And I think that's one of the most important things. So really look at how you're showing up now in life, how you're showing up. You know, are you showing up as the same person in real life as you are on social media? You know, nothing grinds me more, David, than people like not showing up authentic on social media. So, you know, show up as who you are. It really, it's so much more powerful.
It's sexy. It's sexy. I mean, regardless, right? But I mean, just what I mean is that's, you know, that authenticity is just, it's magnetic, and people can smell when it's BS anyway. You can smell it on people, right?
I can't, it's one of my pet peeves. I just cannot stand. It really grinds me. And it's just like, just show up as who you are. You know, you're going to be so much more successful. You're going to be so much more attractive to people. You're going to attract the right people. You're going to attract your people. And so really, at the end of the day, it's like, really look at how you're showing up. And whenever I'm coaching someone or, you know, mentoring someone, one of the first things I do is I go to their social media and I see how they're showing up. And, you know, then I know how I need to work with those people, and what areas of their mindset I can help them with. So,
it's really interesting, actually, because you could read one post, and within that post, the language can tell you so much about exactly how they're programmed and hardwired. And I want to give people hope. Who you are right now, you know, typically is, you know, if we go back to your environment leads to thinking, how we think leads to how we feel leads to how we act leads to results. Results never lie, right? Let's just talk about environment, because, you know, you've created a beautiful environment, your best friends, you talk every single day, you have your dreams and goals are in alignment, you help each other, you help others. So, you know, your language is so similar. I mean, I could close my eyes, and if you had one of those voice muffles, I wouldn't be able to tell who's speaking, right? But that's the beauty of modeling. That's the beauty of environment. When you're around a high level, high energy, high frequency environment, you begin to put out this ability to attract. You keep talking about attracting exactly what you want. What do we say to someone who's in an environment that's quite negative, or they feel quite negative themselves? You know, they're in that sort of gossip, pity party, you know, negative, or they're hurt. Like Emma, you talked about that. So they're guarding their hearts. So they don't trust, they don't forgive. They walk around like they've got a big sack of crap on their back, right? How do we just help them? Where do they start? What's a great place for people to start to really start to embrace what really can come to them?
You want me to go first?
Yeah, whoever. Yeah, jump in.
It really does come down to the people that you surround yourself with. I truly believe it's like, get in a different circle, like start to create new friends. Look, you need to lift your own vibration higher first, okay? So that you can be in the same circle as other people with higher vibrations. So, really, they say you are the sum of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. Yeah. So look at first step, look at the people that you're surrounding yourself with, and, you know, who do you need to eliminate from your life? Some people, it's not on a level where it's like, sorry, I can't deal with you anymore. It's just on a personal protection level. Like, you really do sometimes have to eliminate people in your life, and whether that's through social media, whether that's in real life, you need to do what's best for you. So that's basically my first step for people, is to just look at your surroundings, look where you can improve, and look, as I said before, like, look who you want to be. Look forward. You said something, and Emma, I'm sure you can expand on this. You talked about raising your own energy up, your own vibration up. And, you know, we talked earlier about modeling. You know, an easy place to start, just to raise that energy up, like we just heard, you know, listening to TED Talks, listening to podcasts, that new language as it comes in, you're going to find that as you start to speak and behave and move like these people, the people who are really negative won't want to be around you anyway. They're going to say, they're going to ask you a question like this: why are you always so happy?
right? As if happy's the disease, right? And those are the people, whoop, you know, and what can happen is as you step up, some of them will step up with you. They're going to see a better way because of you. They'll start modeling you, and some will just disappear. They'll go on their own little pity parties. And we'll talk about this because this is something you've had to navigate as well, you know, about environment. How do we create the environment that really allows us to lead these lives that we're all leading here on this call, right?
Yeah, it's honestly what Kylie said is take stock, like be self-aware of who you're surrounding yourself with, honestly, because I saw an image the other day and it was this beautiful big butterfly and then it was this cocoon and he said, you've changed. And he's like, we're meant to. And like, so like really like the big butterfly's like, yeah, we're meant to change. Duh. So just trust that process and just trust that process. It's a beautiful, it's this beautiful journey. And if you're not happy where you are, just stop it, change it. You hold the power in this. You hold the cards. It's what you actually take responsibility, take ownership, and actually get around those people. It's not bad to ask for help. Help me, I'm struggling. And then, you know what, when you're in a pity party, you know, the one thing that really helped me when I was having some really hard days, right? Really hard days, I would choose 5 people. This was before network marketing, guys. I would choose 5 people and just ring them and just see how they're going. If I'm feeling like crap, I want to just pour love on some other people. And you know what? That was it filled my cup up, reaching out to 5 people that were actually going through a crazy time. And just like, hey, I'm just ringing to see how you're going. And then they'd ask how I was. And then it was like, yeah, you know, I'm having a bad day too. Lux was up all night. Peach is asking where daddy is. And I'm struggling seeing some stuff on social media. I've turned off social media. I will have a glass of wine, but I just need to just chat. And then, you know what I mean?
I hope so.
Stop it. Take off social media. If you're comparing, turn it off. Go for a walk. Just those little things. If you're comparing to someone else's life, you do not. Let me just tell you something. My marriage looked like it was squeaky freaking clean and the best marriage. And an affair happened, okay? So please do not compare someone else's life on social media. It's this beautiful thing. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors. Please don't ever compare. Turn it off. Turn it off. Ring a friend, go for a walk on the beach. Kylie and I will go for a walk on the beach or have a margarita on a Monday. And like, just be self-aware. Like, why keep social media up? Why keep comparing? I honestly, this is one thing that I hold so true, Dave, with Kylie. If she goes through a hard time, like she had gone through a pretty rough patch a few months back, you would not see Kylie Donaldson laying on the lounge binge watching a series. She's been binge watching a TED talk. And she'd ring me and go, hey, I just watched this TED talk. And rah, rah, rah. And I'm like, tell me, come on, tell me. And like she's not drinking the wine. She's not having a pity party. I mean, have a season, but she's ringing me and she's actually listening to TED Talks. So don't be a sucker for punishment. Turn off your social media. Stop comparing. You do not know. Ring someone who you want to pour love on, and then ring a mentor, ring someone who, you know, you really look up to, who you want to trade places with, a high viber, and just
high
chat.
viber, I like that.
High viber, and lift your vibe, and you watch your life change.
You know, it's interesting. There's so much gold there, you know, watching both Kylie and I nodding. You know, often I'll take a month or 5 weeks, not necessarily because of comparison, because I don't get into the comparison so much, but that's because I've done the work. I used to. But, you know, if we look at just the thinking process, Kylie, and you've had to, I mean, like, even though you know, again, you're living in an extraordinary body, you have beautiful kids, and you are incredibly wealthy. You've made over $10 million in the last 8 years, you know, and really redesigned your life. But there's still this thing called a mind, which still trips you over. It still comes in and, you know, takes you back to those childhood shit, you know, and so I really, you know, something I've learned about the mind, which is, you know, sort of, we always say follow the heart, not the mind. But how do we know what should we be listening to in our own head? Because I have an answer to this, but I wonder, with you two both doing the work as much as you are and creating the lives you are, how do you navigate it when you notice that your imposter, I call it, or your negative Nelly, or that little voice in your head that's not your friend sometimes? how are you able to switch? How are you able to catch it at its job and then sort of really get your mind going in the right direction and listening to the right things?
It's really, as you said, it's catching it. It's catching it. You know, I catch myself calling Em and I'm like, having this big pity party. And then I'm just like, oh, for God's sake, Kylie, like wake up to yourself, you know, get yourself together. And I think it's really not living in that space, catching it as soon as you can. And really, David, it's awareness.
Yes. Awareness is key.
Awareness is key. Like it seriously is. It's like, okay, so you're going along your day, all these thoughts are coming into your head, it's consuming you, you're starting to spiral downwards. This is what happens to me, right? So I'm going along my day, I wake up, I'm fine, I'm doing my stuff, then I get all these thoughts coming to my head. And then it's catching those thoughts. And that's what you need to be aware of. So once you have that awareness and catch those thoughts, it's really, it's just, how do I even say it? You just build that powerful mindset. You know, I have such a powerful mindset in so many areas that I know it doesn't matter. If I set my mind to something, David, I can do it. I know that, okay? And it really is having that powerful mindset. But when it comes to matters of the heart, that's when it's the hardest. Yeah. And so, but you still have to have that same awareness. You have to have that awareness that when this happens and when this comes in, that you need to stop it and you need to regain control of yourself. And
isn't it interesting that, sorry interrupting, but I just want to sort of accentuate your point, how, because this is big, again, a lot of women are listening right now where they'll continue to attract the same person, right? So they'll go through a relationship that's not, you know, it doesn't fill them up. It's either, you know, either negative in some way or possessive or jealous or whatever. And yet they'll get out of that and whoop, off they come because they don't do the work. And they would continue to steer the ship with the same mind. And I didn't want to interrupt you, but I just think that, you know, you can see that with you right now is so many areas your mind works. And yet we go into that deep heart space and this is where your new work is. You're kind of working more and more to get that clarity of understanding your habits around thinking, right?
Exactly. And it's really just catching those thoughts and fall in love with learning. That's all I've done. I've fell in love with learning. Like I really just want to fill my mind with as much knowledge as I can. And because I just think that knowledge is power, you know, once you're aware, once you're in tune, once you've set your boundaries, like boundary setting, massive, that's a whole other conversation, you know.
We'll do a whole show just on that.
Oh, yeah. I think so, because I think that's so important.
I'm writing it down.
Okay.
Boundary setting.
Organize.
It really is important to set your boundaries, you know, because people will show up the way you allow them to show up. And I think that's another great thing that I've, you know, learned through life is that don't allow in what you won't allow, you know,
It's interesting. You know, my good friend Mike Bewley talks about, you know, thoughts become things, right? And they do. And of course, you know, we're multidimensional. So, you know, business and kids and relationships, etc. But one of the things I look at, and this really helped guide me, is knowing which is the conditioned mind and which is my higher self. Let's say, you know, whether we're talking high vibration, where am I most powerful? Where's that mind and where's the conditioned mind with all the stuff that I went through and we all go through. But the easy way that I navigate it for myself is if it's positive, then I know it's my higher self. And if it's negative, I know it's my conditioned mind. So it just allows me to help navigate the waters so quickly because if I see a negative stream coming up, I think, oh yeah, that's my conditioning. But again, I've done a lot of work. So then I know that this isn't really me because I know that I don't have to wallow in self-pity. I don't have to be a victim. I know that, okay, if I can hear it like that, do I want that? You're going back to what you said, Kylie, the awareness first key to all change. Emma, I want to bring you in because, you know, we're almost at the end of the show here. Let's talk about this again, sort of where building on where Kylie was, you know, just again, we're talking about building the mindset. and really understanding that there really is kind of two of us, right? Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So I took, I don't have it on right now, but I've got like what Kylie's got on, like a leather, it's a hair tie. And I took this from one of your trainings, that whenever I get that thought, because there was a lot this year, I would actually, when I get it, I'd be aware enough to actually physically stop it and go, no, that's not true. And one day I'm like, it's like red, because I had to and that's it. I had to actually stop it and then like flick my wrist, because hold on, that's not the right way of thinking. And then I would actually see myself as my higher self, and she was like this goddess, Greek goddess with a big Trojan, not a sword, but a Trojan. And I'd think of her in these gladiator sandals and like, no, make the call. That's you. Get on it. So I would actually, I'm a little bit more weird. So I had to go from like I like had to physically see something, and then to keep it simple with just the slapping of my, like the band on my wrist of a really bad thought. It's like, nah, come on, that's not you. And then get myself like that. That's the simplest way I had to stop myself during a really crazy time. And honestly, it was watching a podcast. There was this one podcast I watched 4 times in one day when I really needed it, when I really, really needed it, because I was going through it was pretty tough. And I just those practical things. And we can talk about I suppose so many things on this topic, I guess, but it really comes down to what Kylie
we were going to do a 15-minute show. Can you imagine that? We're like, we could probably go the rest of the day.
I just think it's so simple. Keep it so simple. The one thing, what both of you have said and Kylie's taught me, just keep it so simple. Simple's not easy, because you have to really be on top of yourself. You have to really be like, it's like going to the gym. You're making sure you go in the gym, and like don't let yourself down, and like just start with those little, being aware and doing that slapping of the wrist, and like, no, and seeing yourself as a higher self. Or what would someone do? Like in my position, something happened, what would Kylie do? She wouldn't sit and drink a bottle of wine and lay in bed. She's watching a Netflix. She's watching a TED talk. Like, it's like filling up. It's like a cup. You can't fill up from an empty cup. You're filling from the overflow. So it all comes down here. And if you want to attract people in your world, in whatever area, it starts here. You're going to attract who you are.
Yeah. It's so lovely, and it really is. I want to talk a little bit about the band, because I use them quite often, and they seem rudimentary. Except when I first started out, I wore a band on my wrist, and that's my ones have half black, half white, just as a reminder. Normally the word authenticity on, just as a reminder that I get to choose whether I want dark thoughts or light thoughts. I get to choose. And, regardless of what's happening around me, because that's the other thing. I mean, we think about it, shit's always going to happen, and it always does. It's not what happens, it's how we respond. And then over time, and I think that's why I'm starting to see the thread of your friendship, because as you start very rarely do I listen to women talk with such transparency about their deeper feelings, that having those really hard days where you're just struggling with your own thinking. And you both shared that something that happened recently. We're talking about just recently within the last few months. But how beautiful is that? Because I think we're afraid of those things. And some people, what they do is they end up going down the victim road, where they want to talk about it forever. It's kind of like, well, you don't understand. I had that hard month, and they keep bringing it up, not with a resolution, but just to keep staying in that one stuck spot. Where I think what I'm hearing with you, which I love so beautifully, is that, you were there, and know that you're out of there, and you possibly going to pop back in there, but you're going to be in for less. You're using strategies and tools that will allow you to navigate it more quickly, and you have the authentic relationship where you can call each other and say, I just can't believe it. And even though you have these powerful minds and really successful businesses, you're still navigating those treacherous waters of the mind, but you kind of built a bigger ship, right? And you kind of know how to handle it. You kind of got, your seamanship is kind of getting cool, right? And you know how to handle the wind. You know how to use that rudder now. Whereas so many people, it happens and they think it's real. They just think that, and for the rest of their life, they'll live into that story. So Kylie, as we wrap this one up, talk a little bit about that. We're story making up machines. what advice, again, this comes down to building your mindset. What last piece of advice you want to give someone listening right now? Remember, 85% are women, and 85% resonate deeply with what you just spoke about, which is, you know, the wounds of the heart.
Yeah. We're emotional creatures, us women.
Oh, yeah.
But
Me too. No.
you're a Scorpio too, aren't you, David?
July, Cancer.
Oh, July. Okay,
Yeah.
Cancer. All right. So yeah, it's really, you know, the stories will keep you stuck. So it's choosing your story. It's, you know, I could be stuck in my stories from my past. And that's the thing that sometimes I have to pinch myself with. And that is where I see the growth, because, you know, I had a lot of stories from my childhood, like that I could be well and truly stuck in, like I could be feeling sorry for myself for that. And people say to me, oh, but, you know, how can you be the person that you are with that happened to you in your childhood? And it's like, because you deal with it and you move on. It's like, you know, you really have to, like we said, I don't know if it was in this episode or the other one, but it's like you choose your heart. It's you choose whether you want to be stuck in that story, which...
That was the last show.
That was the last
That was
one.
the last show.
Well, I'm going to just reiterate that, you know, you choose your heart, because you can be stuck in a story. I see people that are still stuck in their story and they're 65, 70, and they're still stuck in a story for something that happened when they were in their 20s. Who wants to live their whole life like that?
Yeah.
Like, seriously, it's like, I certainly don't. And so you deal with the problem. It is what it is. It happened. Okay. It happened. There's nothing we can do about it. And if we keep making stories about it, yes, it happened, but it's like, you can learn from that and you can move on from that. And I think that's the most powerful thing, when you can change your mindset and just move on from things like that. That's where you'll find your power. That's where you'll find your drive. That's where you'll find your direction. That's where you'll find your certainty. It's like, just leave the stories behind. Deal with it, but leave it behind. And really know that it's just a story.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, it happened, but how are you reacting? So
one of my favorite sayings is, nothing has meaning except the meaning we give it, right? We're meaning making up machines, and we're storytelling machines. Emma, that was so good. She just dropped the mic on you. I was like, boom. Right? So I don't know, you know, I mean, so any last thoughts, any last words you want to try? And again, we could talk about this for another 2 hours easily, because we're just getting going, really. So we're going to all get back together and do this more. But Emma, last thoughts about that?
Oh, I think she pretty much summed it up, but honestly, it all comes down to you, like literally and letting go of the story. Like, I had to let go of some deep stuff, some real deep stuff. And it's like a scar. Okay. So it's not, whatever happened, it might not be right. It's not right or wrong, but you've got a scar. And sometimes that scar is opened. It's like a wound, and then it kind of heals and it's a scar. But you're the one to choose whether that's going to be reopened. And something triggers it, reopened. Oh, something triggered that, reopened. It's like, think of that. Like, let it heal and release it. Just stop. Stop, be self-aware. Get around people that are going to kick your ass and love you through those times. Like, I'm not saying, like, some people have got some crazy news, but I'm not saying that it's not big. But get around people that are going to love you, but love you enough to not let you stay there. And you hold that power, and honestly, be that person that rings. Don't wait for someone to ring you. Be that person to reach out to someone. Don't sit back and retreat and go into that, because I tell you what, you're going to a story upon story upon story upon story, and before you know it, you're so withdrawn, and then you've created this friggin' monstrosity, and it hasn't even happened. It was from a little this. So being self-aware.
Awesome. You know, we are story making up machines. There is no doubt. Nothing has meaning except the meaning you give it. These are practices. We've all been through it, and we've all, you know, been in minds that weren't the most supported. We've been in minds, I'm talking about the three of us, you know, we're all hugely successful, but, you know, been in minds that put us in really difficult relationships. We all have minds that with jealousy and hatred and all these different things over our lives, and then navigated to living in minds where we really can you know, have the best thoughts. And you know, there's a great saying that says, no thought lives in our head rent free. And because of that, every thought that's in my head, I want to know that it has beauty in it. It has forgiveness in it. It has love in it. It has kindness in it. So that even like, and Emma said this earlier, you know, she talked about even when someone's nasty, she can still think, she can think through their eyes and say, they're probably having a hard day. Maybe they need a hug. Right. And that's the power of the work. The work that we get to do is when we're building our mindset, is that we can truly build a mind that will allow us to create the world, because our inner world definitely creates our outer world. Our thoughts will develop everything around us. So we look at our outer world, we say, okay, let's go back inside and do the work, and then watch what happens on the outside. And that's what you two ladies have done. I thank you so much. I've loved this so much. I can't wait to do it again. Remember the shows, My Extra Mile, those little tiny incremental steps. Emma said it and Kylie said it. Just start with those little tiny steps. All right. And we'll definitely see you on the other side. Bye, ladies.
Thanks, Dave.
See you. Thank
I'm
you.
waiting for you to blow a kiss now, because last time I cut you off.
See you guys. Thank you.